This is an example of how to use Cloud9 to write a simple C++ program. The first step is to create a new workspace. So we click right here, create a new workspace, and it'll ask us for a name. These names have to be all lowercase. So let's call this Lab 1. It also doesn't like spaces, so if you wanted to put underscore in there, that's something that you could do. You'll want to leave the team the same so we have access to it if we need to do that. Here, under the description, you could actually have Lab 1 for CS141, put something more meaningful if you want. You could say private if you don't want other people to look at it. So this is something that I don't mind you seeing, so I'm going to leave it to be public. And then you come down here, click on C++ as the type of project, and then create workspace. It does a little bit of thinking, it takes some time, creates a container. It's creating a virtual machine to actually run your program. So it's actually quite nifty and very convenient thing to use. But it takes a little bit of time. So I suppose this is where we tell jokes. And I can't think of any good jokes right now. Maybe bumper stickers. Oh, I know what I could tell you. Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy. It's a little book. It used to be from Saturday Night Live. Before you criticize someone, walk a mile in their shoes. Then when you criticize them, they can't hear you. Plus you have their shoes. All right, here we go. We're here now. So let me move this down a little bit so we can see it. And this workspace at the bottom, I'll move this up a little bit too so we can see that. Just resizing the window. Here there's two versions. There's the .c version, and we're using C++, so we're going to use the .cc version. Sometimes you'd see these as C++ or CPP alternately. So we're just going to double click on this and it opens it up. And right away we're going to make a few changes. So this is a simple program just to give some output, and we're going to sort of standardize this the way that we typically will in our examples. So first thing, instead of having to put std : in front of this output statement here, we're just going to put using namespace standard up here at the top, which means that then we can take these off right down here, and that should still work. I like on my main function to put the opening and closing braces like this. And generally in functions, this is a practice that I've adopted, and because the return type is integer, then we want to say return 0. We return an integer as well, so that this int corresponds with that right there. So you want to start with this. Now let me describe a few of the pieces here. This one includes input-output stream. So this allows you to do the input-output stuff. It's a library. Namespace standard means that when I do cout, I'm using the standard namespace, and you might, once you're doing this in industry, you might use a namespace from a particular company with a particular set of functions that they use, and you might say using namespace and put some other name there. But for the purposes of this class, we'll always start it looking like this. This is the output statement, cout, and it's pronounced cout and not count. So cout, and then the information, see these less than, two less than signs? It means the information is flowing to the output. So hello world is in double quotes, so everything inside of the double quotes will show up in the output. And then end L is an end of line, so it flushes the output buffer. We'll talk later about exactly what that means, but it says, yeah, really send it, don't store some of it and send it out to output later, send it all right now. So, and it gives a new line, so the cursor goes to the next line. So once we've done this, we can go up here to run, and we click on run, and when we click on run, then it actually comes down here, compiles, runs the program, and we see hello world is the output. So it worked, great. Great job. If you've done this, you can update your resume. C++ programmer. You just wrote a program in C++. Well done. But now let's think about what if we want hello and world to be on two different lines. So we could put \n in there like that. That's a new line character. It's going to print a new line character, and at the beginning of the next line, you'd have a space and then world. So we would expect to see hello and then world would be underneath it with the W over under the E. So let's see if that's in fact what happens. So we run it, hello world, yep, there we go. There it is right there. So we could take that extra space out if we wanted to, run it again, and we see that hello and world is now under it like that. Or other thing we could do here is we could say hello, and we could say, okay, now we're done with that little piece of output. And then we could say end L for the new line. And then we can say give another piece of output like this. And this similarly is going to put hello on one line, give the end of line character, and flush the output. And then world would be on a second line. We could run this again. And we have the same thing. But often it's convenient when you have a string like this, so some text that's coming out with double quotes, to use \n as a return character. So if you wanted to, you could put hello world and then put another new line character like that. So now it's going to say hello world and then the new line character, and then the exclamation mark would come out on the third line. So we can see here we have hello world and exclamation mark. So this is one cout statement with multiple lines of output. So you could do it the other way around. Let's say we had hello, and that's the whole statement. And then we could say hello, and then world. And lastly, we could do this. So think for a moment, what do you suppose the output would be from this line? How many lines of output are we going to have? Where's the new line character come in? And we can run it and figure out, but my forecast is that we're printing out hello, but we don't have a new line character. Then we print out world, so world is going to be on the same line as hello, and then we do this new line character down here. Also, I think there's going to be a problem with the formatting of our output. Let's take a look. And sure enough, we see hello world, but it's jammed together. We forgot to put a space in there. So if I want a space to appear, I have to put the space inside of the quotes like that. So right there I added the space. Now when I run it, I'll have hello, then the space, and then world. All right, so this is how we can give some output with some new line characters. Now, we could also have some variables in our program to keep track. So let's say I have an integer for my age. So this is the type of the variable, saying what's the kind of things that can be stored. So int are whole numbers. And age is going to be the name of the variable, so I can refer to it. And you've seen variables in your previous computer science experiences, so you should be familiar with this. And I could say that age is equal to 53. And so then we could print out, so let's just make this a little more terse again. Hello, world, and new line character, or let's just say end L, like that, okay? So we have the age, same output, but let's actually change our output now. And let's say in next year, so we want to say next year you will be some number years old. So next year, if I'm 53 right now, it means next year I'll be 54. So next year you will be, and if I actually put 54 here, years old, well, that's going to work, but then if I change this to 50, the output would still be 54, right? So we actually want to refer to this variable in there. So I'll show you what happens right here. Next year you will be and 54 years old, even though this says 50. So we actually want to use this variable in our output. So next year you will be, we're going to close that quote there for that string literal, so that will appear just the way it is. And then we're going to print out age, and then we're going to print out years old, like that. So we have chunks of information that are all going to the output, separated by the less than signs right there. So it's going to first print out next year you will be, with a space, and then it's going to print out, so this is a variable up here, and it's going to print out the value that's stored in that variable. It's going to be 50. It's going to print it out, and years old, and we want an extra space in there as well. So actually, so if we run this, it's going to say next year you'll be 50 years old, but actually we want it to be 51. We want it to be one bigger than this. So there's a couple things we could do to get that to work. One thing we could do is right here in place, we could just add one like that. So if I'm, here, let's make it right. I'm 53. There we go. So next year you will be, and it should be 53 is going to get substituted in for that. And then it adds 1, so it should be 54. And we should get an output of 54. So let's run this and see what we get. Voila. Next year you will be 54 years old. And that works. You could also do it this way instead. You could say age equals age plus 1. So we add the 1 first, and then we use it for the output, like that. There we go. Next should be 54. So it's still working correctly. Also, we could just declare age and then prompt for the value. So let's go back to our previous version. So age plus 1. So let's prompt and say cout, please enter your current age. Okay? And then, so if cout is for output, we want to think to get input. What we do, so for input we use cin instead of cout. And if this denotes information flow, like this text is flowing to the output, input's going to be the opposite. We want the input of what the user types to go into this variable right there, which is age. So the prompt will appear. It'll allow the user a chance to type in something, and what they type in will be stored in variable age, and then we'll get our output as we did before. So let's take a look at this. Please enter your current age. So let's say, oh, I'm actually only 30 years old. Oh, 29. Feeling young. There. And next year you'll be 30 years old. So we can have variables of different types, output statements. We can have input and output. And we could also do a simple calculation with some math, as we saw here. And so I think that that's probably enough to get started for now.